children are the worst at telling their parents that they are terrible dancers. And never do that again, never embarrass them again. How dare you?
Welcome to the Humourology Podcast with me, Paul Boross. This is where we explore the art and science of humour in business and life. My guest on this edition of the Humourology Podcast is one of the most respected historians, educationalists and thinkers of our time. He has written extensively on modern political leadership, producing definitive biographies of British Prime Ministers, whilst also challenging how we think about education, human development and well-being. As a former headmaster and vice-chancellor, he has consistently argued that we place too much emphasis on exams and intellect, and not enough on creativity, confidence and the full development of the human being. He's also the author of The Fourth Education Revolution, which explores how artificial intelligence will reshape education and, more importantly, what it means to be human. Sir Anthony Seldon, welcome to the Humourology Podcast.
Well, it's nice to be on, and thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to see you again. Anthony, you've spent your life studying prime ministers, power and leadership at the very highest level. But before we get into that, I'd love to start earlier, where you grew up and what you were like in those early years. And most importantly, for the Humourology Podcast, was humour important in your family?
Oh, what a good question. So it's lovely to be on the Humourology Podcast. And yeah, I mean, it was. Dad had two jokes. And I'm going to say what they were now, in case, because everyone's going to be desperate to know what they were. One is, this is the best lunch I've had today. And the second one was, again, about meals. He was Jewish, so meals featured very largely in his life. And when something was served up to him, and it was cold, he would say, "Does this get hot?" Now, you have to say that neither of them are having anybody listening to this seeing it rolling on the floor. But that was good because humour was given a low benchmark, a low hurdle to cross from that point onwards. Dad was lovely, but he wouldn't have made it on the stage.
The Jesuits say, "Give me a child of 7." Was the young Anthony Seldon humorous?
Yeah, I think that, partly to compensate for being a bit small, very small, having very big ears and generally being odd, I used humour as a way of sort of deflecting tension. I remember in my first report from senior school, my languages teacher said if he wasn't so keen to play the buffoon all the time, he might actually be good at the subject. Now, I thought a buffoon was a good thing, but my parents, when they read the report, clearly didn't. I'm now wiser, if sadder, about that. So I think I probably always used it in a way that people who are trying to win people round, use their mind if they're quite quick to diffuse situations and to make friends where you don't have any other means. And if you look like me, your only way of making an impact was to try to be humorous.
And so that helped with confidence and the ability to find friends. That you found that early then?
I don't. I think that I think I was often trying to use slapstick, use humor, use words to try to. Absolutely. At school, at uni. To try and win people round. I hate tense situations. So I'd always crack often totally inappropriate jokes to try and diffuse situations. So I think, yeah, I've never been very good at it, just to get that out, confession at the beginning, but I certainly have used it. And I think as I've gone on through life, I've used it more and more. And, from a stage, I will often use it. And uh, when I'm with audiences, I'll definitely use it a lot because it just breaks the ice. And when you get up on stage, you see everyone looking at you sort of critically, and they're working. You know that they're working out. Is this person a total git or not? Um, the answer in my case is obvious. And but if you then use humor, it's sort of that they suspend their critical judgments a bit.
So, would you have described yourself as shy? Because there's an old adage, which I'm sure you know, which is performance being the shy person's revenge on the world. Or do you think you've just developed this ability?
I think I've always been shy. I mean, I always find it quite hard to look people in the eyes. And, even today at the dentist, I find it quite hard to look at the dentist. So, I mean, I think I've always not felt very confident. And so it is. So yes, I'm certainly not. I might appear to some to be confident, but I don't feel inwardly confident at all.
It's an interesting word, confidence, and isn't it? Because you've spoken about how people can be limited early on, not by ability, but by confidence. Where do you think, because you've obviously been around education so much, where do you think that loss of confidence begins?
Well, this is one reason why I feel so passionately strongly about our education system, which is very good at finding what young people cannot do and very bad at finding what they can do. And so it rewards those people who are good at exams and a certain kind of cognitive intelligence, and it disrespects and unrewards people whose strengths may be emotional, may be creative, may be intuitive, may be sporting, may be all kinds of different ways where human beings contribute. And so I think that a good school system is essential, whether or not one comes lucky enough to come from a home um, where one's family make one feel good. I mean, a lot of families are very good at knocking each other down, particularly siblings, and think about it, and sometimes parents as well, and whether or not one's had that kind of experience, and I think all of us have to some extent. School is very important in giving young people confidence, and confidence grounded on reality. I mean, there's no point in saying you're great at maths if you're transparently not, or that you're great on the football pitch if you're not. I mean, the child knows very much better than the coach or the teacher or tutor what they're good at, but finding things that they really are good at and building a map, an inner map for each young person about what they're good at in the world is foundationally important in giving them confidence for life. And if you have left school, age 16, 17, 18, whatever, and without that sense of what you're good at, and a sense of confidence, because confidence is everything. I mean, nobody goes out onto a football pitch. The Arsenal women were playing the other night. I mean, none of those team playing for the Arsenal women's team went onto the pitch unconfident. If you go onto a pitch unconfident, if you go onto a stage unconfident, if you go on play karaoke in a bar, and you are unconfident, it becomes a reality. Confidence becomes self-fulfilling, and lack of confidence becomes self-fulfilling. Self-doubt comes in, inner voices start talking to you in the head that you're no good at it. Confidence is really important. And I think the great people in life are those who give confidence to others, and grounded not on la la land, but on the reality of what that young person is good at. And by the way, every young person is good at something.
I think that's a lovely ethos, really. In psychology, we have a saying that if you want anyone to go into any state, you have to go into that state first. And it's one of those things that if you can actually be confident, other people will get that state from you. And I spent 10 years of my early life at the Comedy Store, and you could absolutely tell who was going to die on stage, and it was just built around confidence. And I think that's just what life is about, isn't it? And that's why I love your work so much, is because you understand how early that confidence can be instilled in people or destroyed in people.
Yeah, I mean, some of us will love dogs or cats, or some won't. But a rescue cat or dog will not have been well treated, and it will take time. You can gain the trust of that animal and have it functioning properly, but it takes time if that early work hasn't done. So there's always hope. There are any number of people who've had tremendously bruising early years, and all the way through to teens, who have found themselves, but all other things being equal, in as far as we can, it's much better to have that sense of worth without a distorted sense of one's own importance, and efficacy. I mean, there's that wonderful Ubuntu saying that means so much to me and others, which is that I am because we are. And if we build our identity on the strengths of other people and the fact that we're part of a community rather than just my own achievements, that's another thing that's wrong with the school exam system. It validates people not on collective, but just on individual achievement, which, by the way, bears no relationship to the working world, or very little to the life of work or life outside work. Anyway, so a sense of confidence, but not overconfidence, and also recognizing that in humour, in all great achievement, it often comes out of places of hurt. So we can't undo the hurt that we've had. There's that famous Leonard Cohen line, which I'm just about to completely mash up, which is the cracks in it are how the light gets out. And it is in our vulnerabilities and the things we find hard about ourselves, hard to accept, painful things that have happened to us, disadvantages that we have, needs that we have, that actually we are paradoxically at our most glorious and most unique and most funny.
And learning the most as well, because in order to learn, we have to come out of a comfort zone to some extent. And I like to say, if we're going to fail funny, because if we can laugh at that failure, it somehow diffuses it.
Well, isn't this odd that that failure is how we learn? I mean, failure is how we grow as people, and yet the world of work, the world of education, society is so unforgiving about failure, and it's slightly like the public hanging. People would love to go and see a public hanging because it was like that person with expiating their own faults. We love to blame other people and think they're stupid because they make mistakes. In fact, we should be celebrating people who make well, sort of being being understanding about people who make mistakes, forgiving, but above all, forgiving of ourselves, because yeah, you can't learn without trying. You can't. All scientific advances are based on multiple failures, and then you have the breakthrough. All human learning, all human endeavor. Every successful person, indeed, it's almost a rule that those who found life terribly easy and haven't had difficulty will find life much more difficult and will tend to be very judgmental of others. And then, of course, something terrible happens to them. They lose heaven forbid, lose a child. Something goes very wrong in their life, and bit by bit by bit, that they grow and learn about compassion and wisdom.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I spend a lot of time training leaders and politicians to sort of communicate and speak. And one of the things I always say to them, especially people when they're nervous, is look forward to things going wrong, because that's when you're going to have the most fun. And if you think about it, when you're on stage, and I've seen you on many stages speaking brilliantly, you don't care if something goes wrong because you incorporate it, you have fun with it, you grow with it.
Yeah, so I used to be incredibly nervous. In my first school in Croydon, I got up on stage to speak, and I was just wretchedly nervous, and these voices kept attacking me from inside me, saying, what am I doing? And you'll fail. And my knees were knocking together, and I thought everyone would see it, and that would be the end of my career as a teacher. It was terrible, but you just learn. We can do much more than we think we can. A lot of people who are listening at this will think, I can't. What should we say? I can't. Well, I can't tell jokes. Yes, you can. I can't sing. Yes, you can. I can't draw. I can't paint. I can't dance. We tell ourselves all kinds of things about ourselves which are not actually true, which have been implanted by somebody. And often it could be a failure. You've tried to do something. You had a trial at I don't know, at something or other, and you didn't pass, or other people did better, and you then make that judgment, or a teacher, or a parent, or a sibling, or a fellow pupil says, you're crap at that, and then that's it for life. I mean, dancing is great because we can all dance. I mean, those who are able and those who are unable to go onto a dance floor can still move. I mean, dancing is about movement and rhythm and liberation. It's about losing oneself in something else. And the dance becomes the reality, the movement. And it's that ability to do these things and not listen to those people. Those who have children are the worst at telling their parents that they are terrible dancers. And never do that again. Never embarrass me again. How dare you?
I always say whatever you say to yourself becomes your reality. And
Yeah.
if people repeat those same mantras again and again and again, that will become, they can't sing, they can't dance. It becomes, that's their reality. And at which place the brain closes down and just goes, well, that's something I can't do. And it does essentially become their reality.
So absolutely true. And so I think humor is very good at making us realize those people we find funny are often talking about ourselves, things we don't admit about ourselves. And it can be so cathartic in helping us realize how we've unconsciously trapped ourselves into a way of thinking. So there's no point in getting cross with the teacher or the sibling or whoever it was who undermine one's confidence in one's ability to do something. I mean, that's, I think, not a positive way forward, just to get cross and to blame other people. I think, you know, I'm sure you'd agree, blaming others is really not a good thing to do. It just takes negative energy. There's no progress. But moving on, I mean, show them that you can do these things and overcome those things that they undermine your confidence and your ability to do. Show them that you can do these things, and then use that strength to show other people who are themselves trapped in these self-damaging thought loops.
It is very true. I mean, I think there's an element of a nice bloody mindedness. I had a stepmother who had learned classical piano, and because was like a sort of pop pianist, she said, "You're not musical," to me, and I actually, just to prove her wrong, which is what you mentioned, I went on to have a career in music and had hit records and did a lot of things. So sometimes it can be a good thing to say, "Sod you, I'm
Yeah,
going to show you."
I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, Soju is such a good line, but Soju, not not sod the person, because because blaming others is just into a negative loop, but sod that thought that they've implanted in your mind. I'm going to do it,
Yeah.
and you did, and we are all the stronger for overcoming the things. It's wonderfully liberating, overcoming things. We are at our best when we challenge ourselves and we prove that we can do these things. So, in Action for Happiness, which, as you know, is the charity which I helped found, which has over 350,000 people on it, the 10 steps to happiness include challenging ourselves and trying things out, putting ourselves beyond our comfort zones. And it can make us anxious, but when we do it, we have a great feeling. Well, it could be running doing a park run, or whatever. It could be any one of a million things. And so challenging, not always retreating to the comfort zone, and being with people who, in a nice way, give us the confidence to feel that we can go beyond.
I think I love your. I know you co-founded Action for Happiness. It's such a powerful idea because, as you say, it's not just about feeling good. It's about creating a more meaningful. And I think the important word that people sometimes miss is connected life,
Mm.
which I think that's really about when we connect with people. That is where happiness lies. Uh, what does happiness really mean in your view, and what do most people get wrong about it?
So I think that they we all confuse pleasure and happiness, and there are three different levels of pleasure, then happiness, and then joy. Just like there is data and information, then there is knowledge and understanding, and then there's wisdom. And so again, there are three levels in learning. And pleasure is not happiness. Pleasure is what we get when we've had a nice meal, or we have a holiday that we very much like. It's something, or we've drunk an amazing pint of lager or glass of wine or whatever it is. It's a physical, personal experience that gives you pleasure. It doesn't make you happy to have a brilliant curry, and or it is happiness is essentially has to be shared. So being with one's loved ones and spending time together uh, is relationships when they're going well, having a sense of personal meaning and fulfillment. These are happiness. It doesn't cost anything, It doesn't consume anything. Pleasure's based on consumption of of the physical universe in food or cars or holidays, money. I mean, it's just a very different. Happiness is essentially joined up, and then joy takes us into a more ethereal world. And but happiness is like laughter. Happiness is when we realize that we're not solitary, and that's what laughter does. Laughter breaks down the separation between the comedian and or the person talking or whatever it is, something that one sees and oneself. I mean, laughing makes us feel good. I remember my mother-in-law saying that. She, bless her, she could be quite down and solitary. And I remember her just saying once, we'd made her laugh a lot, and she just, oh, I just feel so good. And what it does is it takes us out of our solitariness in the same way that happiness does. So that's what I think happiness is. Happiness is joyful. Happiness is when we are aware. I am because we are. We're aware that we are essentially relational and at heart relational. We cannot be happy without being in relationship with ourselves,
I,
with others, with nature, with the universe.
I completely agree. And from my perspective, humor often shifts that state very quickly. So I would say that humor is a tool for well-being, if you'd agree. And I think what you're saying as well is that laughter can help people cope with stress and adversity.
I mean, there's cruel laughter, isn't there?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's laughter. When you're laughing um, at somebody, it's not uh, funny. It's not humorous. It is unpleasant and mean. Um, and but proper laughter, even if one is one can laugh about other people in a good way, in a way that isn't causing them to be humiliated or to separate other people. So jokes about unpleasant jokes about other people, singled out, or about races or religions or any other breakdown, unless it's done in a way that is genuinely good natured and is unpleasant. And so, but proper humor, always opens the heart, and the human heart is the key to everything. And the human heart is something that we don't spend nearly enough time thinking about. We can sometimes get the feeling, can't we, when we actually feel our heart responding to somebody and we're aware of it um, as something much more than just a lot of atoms pumping blood around the system. And humor talks to the heart, comes from the heart, talks to the heart, and breaks down the separation between people.
Oh, that's beautiful. Dr. Richard Bandler once said humor is a tool to unlock the mind and change reality. I think
Yeah, yeah,
there's that
yes.
in your book, which I really enjoyed. I mean, it's challenging, but the fourth education revolution. Well, you frame this moment as a fork in the road that artificial intelligence could either liberate humanity or infantilize it. Um, as you suggest, that as machines become stronger in knowledge and cognition, we need to focus more on what makes us human. In this sort of AI driven world, does humor become even more valuable because it's so deeply human?
Yeah. Um, that's, I think, very significant. So we have to ask ourselves, with AI doing more and more, um, taking over more and more of our lives, more and more, um, even since we've started talking, AI has become more intelligent, and human beings have not, in aggregate, become more intelligent. So we have something to contend with, and at best, it's going to ask us the question: what does it mean to be human, and what is the human residual? What is it that the AI will never be able to do for us? Um, and words, and one can, everyone should be asking themselves that question all the time. And the education system and life should be doubling down on the things that only human beings can do, and humor is one of those. I mean, I'm sure, when people finish listening to this, if you ask chat or another generative AI to tell you a joke, it will tell you a joke, but something's missing. What is this? What is it that's missing? And humor is a quintessentially human characteristic, and humor and joy go together, and the ability of a leader, the ability of a parent, the ability of anyone at work, at play, at rest, to be humorous is a gift. It's a gift to all of us, and we are so ridiculous. I mean, everyone. I am so ridiculous. Everyone listening to this in a way is so ridiculous. We pump ourselves up in pompous ways, and to have somebody humorously bringing us down can help align ourselves, make us feel better because we realize more who and what we are. And so
it pricks the bubble of pomposity as well, doesn't it? Really, our
well,
own
look at the politicians, and I mean, not many of them. Who was the last politician we can think of who was good at using humor? I think they'd be better, not worse, for using humor. Obama, no longer president, obviously, sadly, was very said something very funny this week. It's easier for them sometimes to use humor when they're out of office than when they are in office. John Major, for example, said he heard Tony Blair talk about what his top three priorities were, and Tony Blair said education, education, and education. And John Major looked rather hurt when he was being interviewed, when he was no longer Prime Minister, obviously, and asked for his response. And he said, "Oh, well, actually, I thought I had the same three priorities, but in a different order." and I mean, they're not very funny when they're in office. They can be quite funny when they're out of office.
That's a great gag, though. It really, I mean, simple but beautiful. I love that, and I think that's what gives sort of. Do you think that that humor and charisma are becoming more and more important to win at politics these days? I mean, you were just trying to sort of like go back and think of people who had done it. In the future, is it going to be even more essential to have that lightness of touch, just say, that wit, that humor to win?
I don't know. I'm not certain, sadly, that it will be. And some people have great charismatic power. I mean, Hitler had great charismatic power used to a very bad cause. And sometimes politicians can be very plausible and charismatic in getting people's votes, but then lack the substance to do the job. So I think charisma is a quality, but not a necessary quality for a leader. although having the ability to communicate is a necessary quality for in a democracy, um, uh, getting elected. But it needs to be much more than just charisma. Humor, well, look, who is the world's greatest leader today? Who would you say is the world's greatest leader?
What in power today? Because I would have
Correct.
gone Obama as being my
Correct.
favorite.
Clue. I mean, not everyone will agree that they are, but I think that this person is a truly heroic leader. Clue. There used to be a comedian.
Oh, obviously, yes.
Volodymyr Zelensky.
Zelensky.
And so, that's unusual. And to have that background, but he's used it to great effect in the ability to communicate. I mean, Ronald Reagan, president of the US in the 80s, won't be everybody's cup of tea, but he had a background in Hollywood as an actor, not a great actor, but an actor who could be very funny and witty, and he used that, that effortless kind of style that he used. I mean, that's 40 years ago, but so I think that certainly compassion is necessary for for leaders, and the ability to see other people, the ability to laugh at oneself, because it's such a great test. People who are very thin-skinned can't laugh at themselves, and they hate it. They hate it. If they'll lock you up, I mean, they'll kill you. They can't bear it. Why? Because humor will always be telling you a truth about yourself, and people who are more grounded will appreciate it, see the joke, and actually, it's telling you about your shadow, about the side of you that you would not want to see, and that's why, in a wider sense, when comedians talk about going to the toilet, I mean, for example, it's something that we don't talk, about in general conversation, but it's part of our lives. It's part of our daily lives. We'd be in a very bad position if it wasn't part of our daily lives. But politicians are reminding us about the part of our lives that we often don't talk about, don't want to acknowledge, but are part of who we are, part of what it means to be human. And some of the funniest people pick up on our foibles. And on the things that we don't want to talk about.
I think that is important in politics, and I believe I've heard you say this before, that actually that ability to bond a cabinet, for instance, is indicative of a good prime minister, somebody who can take people with him. And humor is part of that process, even if it's good humored, even if it's wit. It's that ability to carry people with you. And people, I won't mention prime ministers' names, but certain prime ministers didn't have that and therefore lost the support within their cabinets.
So the great leaders, certainly in democracies, obviously in non-democracies, brute force is. I don't imagine that Putin is a great gag teller in the Kremlin. Let's come along and hear Vlad's daily jokes. I mean,
I bet everybody laughs when he makes one.
Probably, because if they don't, they won't still be holding the job in the evening, and they won't be alive tomorrow. But in a democracy, any leader, I mean, anybody who doesn't, who is having to persuade people to follow them, the more self-disparaging they can be, the less seriously they take themselves. It's actually an attractive quality. It's not an attractive quality Um, Vulnerability attracts self self trumpeting. I mean, we're much more drawn to somebody when they admit their failings than when they tell us how marvelous they are. I mean, you know, whenever we're in a group of people and somebody starts telling you how fantastic they are, or how much they earn, or whatever, or how fantastic their children are, it repels us.
Yeah.
We're drawn to people who are authentic, can laugh at themselves, can be vulnerable, can be authentic, truthful, and in that space, humor is never far away.
I agree. Anthony, we've reached the part of the show which we like to call quick fire questions.
Quick fire questions.
Who's the funniest business person or politician that you've met?
I think that some were funny back in the past. I think that Nye Bevan, who created the health service, could be very funny at times.
Okay. What book makes you laugh, Anthony?
Oh, I think that that Robert Harris, who I'm reading at the moment, is often making me laugh, and so I'll go for Robert Harris.
Wow, that's one I wasn't expecting, and one we've never had on the Humourology podcast before, but very interesting. What film makes you laugh?
Golly, there was a film that was so touching called Central Station, was it? A Brazilian film about a orphaned boy, and there's some extraordinarily tender. It's a famous Brazilian film with subtitles, and it's extraordinarily moving and touching, and so I'd go with that.
Okay. Shifting to the other side of the equation slightly, what's not funny?
People who take themselves too seriously, and people who use the force of their personality or their office to suppress others. In other words, people who infantilize rather than liberate. And we all can remember teachers, we can all remember people at work who encouraged us to be ourselves, and others who made us frightened and sticky under the arms, and because we were just frightened of them, and they were using their power unfairly.
I couldn't agree more.
And I can't say that. I think that we have to. I know that in my own past, it's easy to pontificate about this. I often reflect much more on the times I've said things and done things and got them wrong than when I got it right. And I think that's because I'm still trying to learn from those experiences. And but yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, people who allow us to be the human beings that we are.
I agree wholeheartedly. What word makes you laugh, Anthony?
Joy.
Joy. Lovely word. We should sing it from the rooftops. Penultimate question. You've got a brilliant education from Oxford. You've obviously been a top
I was lousy at Oxford. I mean, I hardly passed my finals.
Well,
I
you got to
got a
Oxford.
C and 2 E's at A level, and I hardly passed my degree. And frankly, if I'd been marking it, I wouldn't have passed it. I failed my first year exam in philosophy and genuinely, and I was amazed I passed finals because I really didn't understand the subjects.
All right. Well, let's just say you've been quite big in education since. Would you rather be considered clever or funny?
Oh, funny. I mean, I not certainly want to be clever. I mean, clever slightly implies clever, whereas funny, sounds good. And kind sounds good. I'll never be clever. The only times I've ever been clever are unintentionally.
No, I like that. Final question. Desert
Mhm.
Island gags. I know you've been on desert island discs,
Mm.
but if you could only take one joke with you to a desert island, what would that be?
Oh, I think the joke I forgot that Dad also said, which was getting on for being slightly funny, which is the Jewish mother gives their son two pairs of socks for the birthday present. And he comes down on his birthday wearing one, and she says, it also works with two shirts, by the way. And she says, what? She says, you didn't like the other one? I mean,
It's a classic Jewish
it's a
joke.
it's a classic human joke. It's a classic human joke because it allows you to laugh at her, at a mother figure, but without any sense of humiliation.
Oh, it's perfect. And the perfect way to end a perfect interview. Anthony Seldon, thank you so much for being a perfect guest on the Humourology podcast.
Well, that's great because I've never been perfect. I've been imperfect, and I've never been perfect 3 times in a row. And I'm going to go away singing and feeling very, really grateful that you've had me on, and thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. The Humourology podcast was hosted by Paul Boross, produced by David Rose. Music by Steve Hayworth, creative direction by Les Hughes, and additional research by Helen Sykes. Please remember to subscribe, like, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. This has been a Big Sky production.